Great.
Wonderful.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the newest episode of the Theater Enthusiast podcast. I'm very excited to welcome two of the cast members from, it's a very long title, so bear with me. It is presented by Clutch Productions. The play is called The Inheritance of a Long-Term Fault. It is now playing until December 23rd at Theater Row. Please welcome Gabra Zuckman and Craig Wesley Divino. Yeah, did I say that all correctly? Are we happy to be here? Do you guys want to applaud for yourselves? Because I'm just doing a smattering.
I'll applaud for you. How about that?
Thank you.
We're applauding for you.
Yeah. Now I'm just like clapping like I'm in a show. Okay, so welcome. Thank you both for coming. So I always start the podcast with each guest, whomever would like to talk first. Where are you guys from?
Do you want me to talk first?
You should talk first.
Whoever.
Craig is the better looking one, but I'm the more talkative one.
You're beautiful. Stop it.
So I grew up in New York, the suburbs of New York. I've been local here all my life, although I've done a ton of traveling. Places I went to school, places I did theater, places I traveled to. I lived in Denver for a couple of years, and then wound up back here again. So mostly New York for the better part of my life.
Yeah. And Craig, what about you?
I spent most of my young life in the UK. My parents are American. I'm a very typical third culture child, and moved back to the States to go to college an untold number of years ago. And have lived in upstate and in Rhode Island, and then have been in New York City for the last, 15 years. 15 years.
So I'm very curious to know, did you have the British accent growing up that you now no longer have? Because I've had like a couple of British people on. I'm like, now I have another British man coming on to my podcast. And you have no accent.
It was always flexible when I was a kid, because whatever accent was the least likely to get me beat up was the one that I would use at any given moment. But it's nice to have it available. So
you're just like a naturally born actor with accents.
Yeah, and filled with fear of fights. Yeah.
I guess that works, theater, rejection.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. So we are going to talk a little bit about, I just want to highlight something that each of you do before we get into the inheritance of a long-term fault. So Gabra, you actually have like a pretty extensive and award-winning and top 10 best female narrative of audiobooks. I know, chef kiss from Craig. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because it's definitely within the acting umbrella, but it's a different form of it. Do you want to talk about how you got into it?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I many years ago, it was one of the first shows I did after grad school. I was doing a production of Taming of the Shrew with the Georgia Shakespeare Festival, and I was playing Kate, and the guy playing Grumio was a miraculous and brilliant narrator named Jonathan Davis, who subsequently became a very close friend of mine and told me at the time, "You've got the voice for this." And I was like, I don't know what the this is. I don't even understand it. But for a very long time, it was absolutely a day job to me. And it was not particularly a craft. It was the thing that I did. Like, I would record during the day. I would perform at night. I sometimes would record all day and then do outdoor Shakespeare at night.
Oh, wow.
Those young vocal cords. But as things moved and opened and shifted, and it's very important for me to articulate this, because I think a lot of people just say like, oh, well, if you've got a nice voice, you can go into audiobooks. But actually, it became a massive craft for me, a huge part of storytelling, and a huge part of the umbrella of me calling myself a storyteller in different mediums. And so it is very, very different. You're sitting in a booth, you're behind a mic, maybe you're standing in a booth. The way to tell a story is incredibly different, but nevertheless, I talk about it as like the way we all once sat around campfires, or even when you're in the theater and after the show you go out and you're having drinks and you're talking at a bar. That kind of like leisure and long form storytelling, and the depth that you get into, and the opinion and the joy and the passion for it is what I think audiobooks really, really are. And so for me, it has become a huge craft and a passion, and something that I teach, coach, direct, as well as do a lot of myself.
Yeah. I know I said like one each, but I will also, we don't have to talk about it, but I do want to plug that you do have a book series that you wrote.
I'd love it. I'd love it if you plugged it, but there's actually multiple things because the Bod Squad series I wrote a while ago, but now I have a company called Love Bites Originals, which is short form romance and erotica that I write and co-produce with my producing partner, Emily Wu Zeller. And that's Love Bites Originals. It's the name, that's the website name, and you can find us all over social.
Is it books or audio or both?
It's really made, those are made for audio.
Got it.
And those are like short form audio, like they're kind of podcast like, but sold as audiobooks, like a full series as an audiobook. And they're multicast and they're fun and they're sexy and they're cool and weird.
Well, I know somebody who's a voiceover actor if you need anybody.
Thank you.
It's not me. Please.
No, please let it be you. This would be amazing. Please let it
not be me. Oh, no, it's not. Imagine, God.
It would be my favorite thing ever if it was like, by the way, get me into that hot erotic series. And I would be like,
I would be like the low register, like, hey, I can't even do it. I'm blushing right now with the thought of even saying anything. But no, there's like a whole market for that too, because romance novels have just like blown up. And I like get advertisements on Instagram about like the Greek gods having audiobook romances.
Oh, I know.
Like an app for that now. Anyway, I feel like we're making Craig cringe. So
not at all. I do want to say that the craft of what Gabra does in audiobooks is apparent even when she's on stage. Like her precision and ease in vocal performance, I think is a huge part of what makes this play work too.
Yeah. I would also like to say, not to like make this all about Gabra, but I did really
Gabra.
that like clip that you put on your that you have on your website of you being the teacher, and you're like, it's not me, it's your son, it's you. Anyway. Now we're on to Craig. So Craig, as we move, thank you for giving us a blurry tour of your apartment.
Well, I'm just trying to get away from the heater that just turned on and is very loud.
That's okay. I have
you can see everything, sort of.
It's New York. You're Brooklyn. I'm not in Brooklyn, but anyway, so let's move on to you. You are the co-founder and the founding director of the off-Broadway, not-for-profit theater company called what is it called? Called
Faultline Theater.
Thank you. I almost called it founding director because that's what I had written down, but it's not. Tell the folks what it is, the title of it again, and what made you co-found this and all that fun stuff.
This is a brief version of a very long story, but I went to the Brown Trinity MFA programs, and my roommate in grad school and very good friend Aaron Rossini and I, when we came to New York, wanted to start building a place to make our own work. And it started as just a very sort of loose framework for raising money and producing plays. We started with Dr. Faustus and then did a new adaptation of Aristophanes' Frogs. And then over the course of the last more than a decade, we've developed it into a very artist-focused play development company. So there's 3 tiers of what we do. There's what's called Irons in the Fire, which is a bespoke play development series. We build a development process for each individual play. I think we had something like 800 applications last year for 4 spots. And each of those 4 spots will be designed based on the needs of that play. It could be like a few days and getting ready for a public reading, or if it's just a germ of an idea, it could last the whole year with weekly writing processes. And then there's what the second tier is called Plays and Previews, which we just launched the pilot program last month, which is a workshop style production. The plays don't open, they stay in previews, as the title would suggest, but they're fully designed, fully rehearsed. Sometimes the actors are carrying pages because they got those pages that day. But when you go and see them, it's a full theatrical experience. And then the third level is a full off-Broadway production, which we do 1 or 2 every year.
Well, and do you have your own theater, or do you rent out theater space for these off-Broadway productions that you put on?
We have a space we have an office at Art New York, but in terms of performance spaces, that again flexes to the needs of the individual play. We're frequently at Ayati on 4th Street. This most recent Plays and Preview series was at Out of the Box, which is where the old New Ohio was. But yeah, Fault Line Theater has been my baby for a long time.
Cool. So shout it out to the world. Check it out. Okay, so let's talk about the inheritance of a long-term fault. How did this play come into your life? Was it just an audition? Did you know people involved in the production? How did you guys get involved? Who wants to go first?
Craig, you go first.
I got a phone call last spring to do we did a workshop, I think sometime in last spring. And then yeah, I got an offer a couple of months ago and then came in and did the thing. It's pretty great, pretty seamless.
Like Angela Bassett?
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
So Gabra, what about you?
Yeah, it was very similar. I mean, I do a ton of workshops and readings and collaborations, and so I didn't expect anything other than the readings that we had done. And then I also got a call a couple months ago, and I was just thrilled. I was so excited at the idea. I knew already between the collaborating creative team and whoever they might hire as the cast. And I had done one reading. I did 2 readings of it. And Craig, you were in one of those readings.
I was in one, yeah.
I've had the privilege of getting to know Craig a couple of times before this through a couple of different like readings. And we have 8 million friends in common. Craig has sort of worked all over the place. And so
and everyone in this city loves Gabra. So
yeah. Well, it's right back at you, because the first thing when I told people who was it, who the cast were and what I was doing, everyone was like, "Oh my God, Craig Divino, Craig Divino, Craig Divino." So it was doubly exciting for me to get to work with Craig properly.
So, and I don't know who wants to take the reign of this. Maybe Gabra should, because it's about women. Do you want to tell folks listening what the show is about?
Sure. I'll give it my best go. And it's fascinating. Yes, it's about women, but all of the men that Craig play are so pivotal to the plot that I think he'll have some things to add.
We'll get to him. I'm just curious, like from a woman's point of view. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. I'll start by saying that my friends who have come already, and my friends who have just seen the title of it say, "This is about us, isn't it?" And it's why the writer wrote it. This is about us, isn't it? Now, what does that mean? The writer, Melissa, who's also a good friend, she's really spectacular on every level. She has woven together 2 stories. One is a story from the past, one a story in the present. And how I describe it to people is the story from the past is one of a mythological indigenous past. In this production, because the writer is Welsh, it is loosely based in Welsh mythology and the indigenous Welsh. And it ties into a storyline in the present. And what, for me, I believe the play is about is what happened way back then in terms of colonialization, in terms of a people that were free and uninhibited, that were colonialized. What was inherited from that into the present, and how far have we come, and how do we deal with it now? And so these 2 storylines occur sort of separately in the piece and wind up weaving together as the piece goes on in a way that makes us all say, this is a piece of our story. How far have we come? And it touches, I believe, it touches upon so many different backgrounds of indigenous, native, colonized people into our present world. How did I do, Craig?
Thought that was beautiful.
Okay.
Craig, would you like to add your perspective of what the show is about now?
One thing that I do think is interesting to add to that is that, and Melissa said this, the modern day part of the play is very deliberately and specifically set in the United States. It takes place in Boulder and in California and in Texas. But she's crafted the more magical historical scenes. They're particularly Welsh in this production because she's Welsh, but they are flexible to any indigenous population by design.
Mhm.
So that that slight absence of historical specificity is deliberately to make the play more about everyone, which I think is an important thing to note. um I play all the men, and I think that it's easy to what's one of those tricks that actors run into sometimes when we have to play villains or antagonists. And what's been a fun challenge for me is connecting to sort of what the positive wants and needs, especially of the two sort of, I don't want to give anything away about the story, but the two major male characters in the play, um, why they're behaving the way they're behaving, understanding how that's going to be received while also totally committing to those as real valid needs, um,
Would you
is always
say
a great challenge.
it's an inheritance of a long-term fault that they are acting this way?
One might guess.
Right? See how it
Uh,
all ties in? There you go.
That's beautifully said.
I want to do a co-pro that's the inheritance of a long-term fault line theater.
Why not?
Oh, bum. If I may, can I shout out Craig for a moment to just say that a lot of what Melissa has continued to say is how human and likable these male characters should be, and that there are very few actors I know who have the ability to combine both the comedic chops of these roles, of the multi-character roles that Craig's playing, but also the humanity of it. Because I mean, you can tell just from talking to him, he's so likable, but they must be likable, or else it just becomes something about that we don't really quite understand. It becomes too black and white. It becomes about a villain, and it's not. It's about actually humanity that you feel for, that's at a very different perspective and counterpointed to another humanity that you feel for. And Craig brings that very beautifully in a way I don't think many actors could.
It's very kind. I would pass a lot of that praise on to Melissa, who's written complex characters that could very easily be two-dimensional. But thank you, Gabra.
So really quickly, because you guys do play multiple characters, and I have yet to see the show, I'll probably be going within the next few weeks. Is there a way that you, for yourself, have worked on to differentiate, whether it be accents or mannerisms, what have you, of each character, or you just take it from the script and you figure it out? I know you understand what I'm saying, but yeah, take it away. Whoever wants to go first.
My job is a lot less complicated than Craig's is. I have two characters. They're so wildly different. I am given the gift between the difference of character that Melissa's written that includes accent, that includes place and time, that includes outfit. I mean, the costumes I'm in are so wildly different. And that's the most interesting part, is that I have to underdress one costume under another costume in order to make all the quick changes. But they're so wildly different that the form, literally the form of the woman, the difference of sort of tunic versus blazer and like sharp accent versus open tone, is that for me is very helpful in guiding the difference of these two. But for me, it's just two. I think Craig has a much more difficult role in that respect.
Yeah. Sort of tying this to what we were talking about earlier, when we were at the table and when we were in that workshop a while ago, sort of by nature, it starts as a vocal performance. And I think that Melissa is such a specific craftsperson with language that the music of each, I don't actually know off the top of my head how many characters I play, but I should probably know that answer.
Well, I have John, Man, Oliver / others. So
yeah, it's Josh, Oliver, Man, therapist, 6 or 7, but they're so specifically written that the music of each of their voices was clear as we move through table work. And I've added some specificity in terms of a couple of them have dialects. There's some other versions of vocal variation. They live in different places in my voice. They have different rhythms and tempos. But I think I would be giving myself too much credit to say that that was all created by me. That's very much in collaboration with Melissa and what she already had on the page. And I'm always inspired by how specific Gabra can be in the very small differences between. Yeah. Anyway.
Do you
I'll
want me
give
to
you
just
more
like
praise
sit
later.
back and give you guys like 5 minutes to just like praise each other? Like I'll just
No,
sit there.
no, what we need to do is we need to cut to us having some kind of like antagonistic, like some argument with each other backstage, being
But yeah,
like,
we're just gonna fight
stepping on my
backstage.
lines.
Yeah. Or no, you can just do it later. Like, oh, we were on a podcast today and this person just like bogarted the entire conversation the whole time. So as we are coming towards the end and we have touched upon the inheritance of a long-term fault, why do both of you think it's important that audiences see this show?
You want me to speak first? You want
I
to speak?
think, Gabra, I think you should take the wheel on that.
Just gonna
Okay.
sit here with my hot priest mug and listen.
Okay. Someone came to the show the other night. This is someone who I know of and who's a friend of Christiane's, who's our sort of central character and also artistic director, and Melissa, the writer. So this is the friend of theirs who apparently said to Melissa, and then expanded it with Christiane, said, "This was my mother's story." And I think for everyone who comes to see it, I'm very, very careful about saying this is not a woman's play. This is a human play, because I think we can really tunnel vision ourselves and narrow ourselves by that kind of language. Because I think everyone will come and see this and say, oh my goodness, that's my mother's story. That's my father's story. That's my grandfather. That's my, and it is actually Melissa's story. It's a piece of her life. Is her grandmother and her grandfather is a piece of this story. So the reason why I think people should come to see it is because essentially I believe the purpose of theater and of all of our stories is to heal and transform. And we are in a moment right now where we all need deep, deep healing and deep transformation, particularly around issues of our ancestral trauma and our ancestral inheritance. And that's what I think this play targets, is some piece of our ancestral inheritance that we are all reckoning with. And I would just add to that it's also it's a beautiful group of both the actors, the onstage and the backstage and the creative team. It's just a really, really beautiful group of people telling this story together. And also it's really funny. So like, not to leave that out, this is not like a sad story. This is a beautifully wrought, deeply funny, deeply poignant, deeply moving story. How'd I do, Craig?
I mean, brilliant.
So Craig, since you're not going to add to that, what do you hope that people take away from the show? Like, aside from why they should see it per Gabra, what does Craig, you think the people should take away from it?
I'm never very good at framing like what the message of a thing should be, or what the sort of received experience should be. I do want to lift something that Gabra touched on. I did a play about 10 years ago called From White Plains, and what sticks out in my memory about that is we'd all be hanging out this was at the Signature Theater, and we'd all be hanging out at the bar in the lobby, and people would come up and want to talk to us after the show. And what sticks out in my memory about that is, it's like people come up and be like, yeah, great job, da, 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 and talk about the play, most plays. And with that play, and I think that this will be true of this one as well, people would come up to the actors and go, you were great, and then immediately start talking about their own lives and how the play related to and resonated with their experiences. And I do think that if I were to, first of all, it is very funny, which helps, but it is a play about healing, or at least the attempt to heal. And if we can share a little bit of that, I think we're doing our jobs.
Great. So once again, The Inheritance of a Long-Term Fault is playing now until December 23rd at Theater Row. Is there anything else you guys like to add before we end the podcast?
Just we have a phenomenal crew and set of designers who have worked to create. I mean, when you see it, it's wild and weird and great, and there's so much going on. And Chelsea, who is our ASM backstage, has so much to deal with, and they're all superheroes, and they deserve all the credit in the world.
Let's applaud them. There we go. All the credit to them. So it was like backstage crews too, are just awesome. Front of house, just everybody who works
Stage
on.
management, everybody.
Yes,
I never
everyone.
think about it.
Because like people sometimes, if they're not like theater nerds or work within the industry and they only see like the acting performances, but they don't understand that it's like a whole group of people that like make things run, and just like the performers are just one tiny aspect of it. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I would come on the stage naked at the wrong moment, fall down. That's what would happen without them.
And watch that happen after you guys fight about who bogarted the conversation.
There
And
you
then
go.
today you're just gonna like walk out on stage with like the wrong shirt on.
Correct.
Just like manifesting that fun. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on to the podcast. I hope you guys have a great performance. And if you guys are listening, or who you should be listening. So the ones who are listening, go check out The Inheritance of a Long-Term Fault, once again performing now until December 23rd at Theater Row. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having
Of
us.
course.